Good evening, good afternoon, all. Thank you for joining us on this session. Welcome to our panel that we are dubbing Impact Measurement Powered by an Index and Benchmark. To start off, in the hot seat today, we have three very crucial players in the financial inclusion space who have dedicated some time today to walk us through one of the exciting work that we have done this year jointly, that was steered by 60 Decibels. And we are really looking forward to having this exchange with you. First off, we have Fanny from Advance. Advance is the Advanced Microfinance Network, which is a leading international MFI group. She will let us know shortly what her role is in the organization as well. Secondly, we have Devin, who works for 60 Decibels, which is an impact measurement company that is so crucial in translating data in a language that is understandable by multiple players within the financial inclusion space. My colleague Mitzi is also here. She works with FMO with me. FMO is the Dutch Development Bank. We also have you in the audience, and I would really encourage you to participate in this engagement and drop in your questions and your comments in the chat, and we will tackle them at the end of the session. I think it's important for you to know who's speaking. So my name is Esther Njoroge. As mentioned earlier, I work for FMO. FMO is the Dutch Development Bank. My role is specifically to support the development of FMO's financial inclusion strategy. And I support Massif, which is FMO's financial inclusion fund that is powered by the Dutch government. FMO has a global footprint of about 85 countries, and we've been active over 50 years in the development finance space. We have a very strong focus on access to finance to MSMEs, and one of our key strategic focus is providing investment, learnings, capacity development, name it, to financial service providers with the aim of course, driving this financial inclusion theme. If you quickly dash to our website, you will learn more about other areas where we are active, including the energy space and the agriculture, food and water space as well. But I think today the focus will be towards access to finance to MSMEs, financial inclusion, and specifically MFIs and access to finance for MFIs. Like I mentioned at the top, please feel free to jump in with questions and comments on the chat, and one of our awesome support will help us, feed us those questions, and we'll be able to address them towards the top of the hour. Right, so to kick us off with introductions, I will welcome Fanny. You can tell us a little bit about her role in Advance. Go ahead, Fanny.
Yes, good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. I'm Fanny Serre. I'm the group head of clients and impact here at Advance, based in Paris. Advance is a group of microfinance institutions. We are running 9 institutions in Africa and Asia, so 3 in Asia and 6 in Africa. And we're providing financial services for MSMEs and farmers who are usually underserved by the traditional financial services providers. We have more than 1 million clients across those 9 subsidiaries. And yes, very happy to be here today to share the key learnings from our work with 60 Decibel later on during this session.
Thanks, Fanny. Devin, that's a good segue for you to tell us more about yourself and 60 Decibels.
Happy to. Hello, everyone. Pleasure to see people in this room. My name is Devin. I am a manager at 60 Decibels, typically based in our New York office, but currently in Nairobi, Kenya for a little bit. I'm leading the Microfinance Index initiative and work at 60 Decibels, so get the great pleasure to work with people like Fanny and Mitzi, who you'll learn a lot more about throughout this this panel. What we do at 60 decibels is impact measurement with the heart and focus of the customer and the client voice front and center. And so we really believe that impact and outcomes should be measured by a client's experience and what they have to say. So we do work in financial inclusion, energy, agriculture, quality jobs all across the gamut, and really excited to talk to you about our work in microfinance today.
Thanks, Devin. Mitzi, go ahead.
Thanks, Esther. So my name is Mitzi Perez Padilla, and I'm a colleague of Esther here at FMO. My role is a little bit different. So I am an evaluation officer. I sit within the strategy department, and one of my roles within, let's say, the strategy department is really to try to understand and help FMO learn from the impact that it's enabling and creating through investments, all over the globe. And I'm very happy to be here and share our experiences as well with this very interesting initiative. Thanks, Esther.
Thanks, Mitzi. So to kick off the discussion, I think, Devin, you would be probably the best person to start off and tell us a little bit about this index that we're talking about. So go ahead and just explain that to us. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Esther. Yeah, to set up this conversation where we focus on motivations, learnings, and challenges from an initiative like the Microfinance Index, I wanted to have a brief overview of what the index was, so we have a starting point of what the whole initiative was, and what we asked people and clients all over the world. So first, some big numbers. The Microfinance Index is the world's first microfinance social performance report that is really grounded in customer voice. We talked to nearly 18,000 microfinance clients around the world. That was from 41 different countries, representing 72 microfinance organizations. This in total represents about 25 million clients that are served by the microfinance institutions included in this index. So we estimate about 15% the microfinance population globally. We'll talk a little bit more later on about how we operationalized this initiative and what it really looked like in terms of methodology and behind the scenes making this all happen. And so I wanted to give you some behind the scenes numbers, which are we had a standard survey that we used across all 72 microfinance organizations. That means we asked the same questions the same exact way to all the clients that we interviewed. Those were 37 questions in total. We had a team of nearly 295 research assistants that were making phone calls to the microfinance clients. And we estimate that they spent about 287,000 minutes on the phone with microfinance clients, speaking 48 different languages around the world. So that's kind of the power of what it took to put this index together to really have comparable outcome social performance. Here is a quick map just to give you a representation, a visual representation of where clients were that we spoke to. About half were in sub-Saharan Africa, a third in Asia, and then Latin America and Middle East and North Africa representing smaller proportions. And what is the index? So when I talk about we did this index and what are we looking at? Last year, we looked at 5 impact themes. Those impact themes were identified with financial inclusion experts and just given our previous experience in financial inclusion and talking to microfinance clients. So the 5 were access, business impact, household impact, financial management, and resilience. We looked at between 2 to 6 indicators within each of these dimensions to really look at how was the microfinance institution serving a client and what was the client's experience. So those were 18 indicators in total spread across those 5 impact themes. And as I mentioned, by using the standard survey and asking the same questions across the whole all the clients, we have 100% comparability. And so we are able to compare. You'll see when Fannie talks Advans in their portfolio, their microfinance institutions compared to other ones around the world. So this all gives us a score, which we are then able to rank microfinance institutions based on how they perform within those dimensions. So we have the top 20 performers highlighted here. One chose not to be named in our top 20, but you can also see the diversity, but also interestingly enough, a lot of sub-Saharan Africa MFIs represented in the top 10. Latin America has the greatest spread. So you have one ranked number 9 and then one ranked in the bottom of our index. So there's a wide range of performance there, particularly for Latin America. This all wouldn't have been possible without the people who really believed in an initiative in something like comparative social impact performance. And so highlighted here are Advance and FMO for just being our founding partners in this initiative and believing in something before it even existed. And now I want to talk a little bit about some of the findings, but also benchmarks and why this is so important. So we have benchmarks not only within the indicators, but also in the dimensions that give an idea of what the minimum performance is, the maximum performance, and then the average performance of the microfinance institutions included in our index. You can kind of see it ranges based on the dimension. So business impact has the widest spread of minimum to maximum of where you see microfinance institutions performing. And then things like access have a smaller spread. I just want to walk quickly through some highlights and what we found mainly within the 5 dimensions. So first is access, and I hope no one here is surprised to hear that microfinance is doing a good job of reaching people without access to financial services. This differs a little bit by gender and by region, which are highlighted here in the chart. I am going to kind of blow through these insights and highlights. I think they're important and I want to give you an idea of some of the things that we found, but really the meat of this panel is listening to some motivations and learnings and challenges of participating in the index. So I would encourage you, if you haven't seen our global report or dashboard, to go online and check it out. In household impact, we're finding that 1 in 3 say their quality of life is very much improved, and the gender differences are small. So sometimes there is a hypothesis in microfinance that women are more likely to are talking to clients and hearing about their experience. We didn't find significant differences by gender. We ask a question about financial goals, and so 80% are saying that they're better able to reach their financial goals thanks to the microfinance institution. We found some interesting things based on if they use their loan for a business purpose versus if they used it for non-business purpose. So about 3/4 of clients were using their loan for a business purpose, and those who are using it say their incomes very much increased. We did find some interesting trends in the financial management and the resilience dimension by using their loans for a business purpose. So one of those examples is repayment burden is much higher for clients who are not using their loans for business. That also shouldn't be quite surprising to people familiar with the microfinance sector. The financial management dimension, we found that 3 in 4 clients say that their loan repayments are not a problem. I do also want to highlight the other side of the story here, which is that for 6% of microfinance clients, they are saying it's a heavy burden. So for some people that we spoke to in the index and those 18,000 clients around the world, there are some represented in our index who are saying that they're over indebted or their repayments are a heavy burden. And finally, on resilience, again, 75% of clients show strong signs of financial resilience, and compared to the global Findex, which some of you also may be familiar with, we found that microfinance clients that we spoke to were actually more likely to report higher levels of resilience and ability to fund emergency expenses than the average person represented in the Findex. I'm going to pause there for any questions or pass it over to Esther.
Sure. Thanks, Devin. And I think going forward, I will refer to this as the Findex, right?
So the Findex is something different. The MFI Index, yes.
MFI Index. I will take the
global
MFI Index going forward.
Perfect.
Great. So Mitzi, I think you're a good transition here for us to talk a bit about this. So why did FMO as an investor choose to take up this initiative, and exactly how did you select the investees to support, and how many did you select? Just a bit of the FMO side of this process.
Yes, thank you, of course. Can you hear me well, by the way? Yeah, okay, good. Well, yeah, one of the key focus sectors of FMO, as you already mentioned earlier, is financial inclusion. And just to put it into perspective of, let's say, how much this matters to us, last year alone, from what we know from our, let's say, impact indicators that we collect, FMO, through its customers provided about 30 million microloans. So this is, this is for us somewhere where we feel like we do want to know exactly what type of impacts are we enabling through financing financial institutions ourselves. So typically what FMO does every year, just to put it in context, that we measure some type of indicators to know, for example, how many people are reached by the investees of FMO. In addition to that, we also have evaluations where we conduct more in-depth analysis and research on understanding the impact in some of our customers. But when we were invited to be co-founders of this initiative, we thought, like we immediately connected this to the type of work that, for example, I am doing within my team in evaluations at FMO. And we saw it as a really cost-effective way, an opportunity to understand better as well, not only who we are reaching through our investments, but how they are themselves, the end beneficiaries, perceiving changes to their lives due to financial inclusion that we are enabling as well. So so that was a bit the entry point. So first we connected it to the work that we do ourselves, which is trying to understand better the impact that is being created. And secondly, we also saw it as an opportunity because this was being done at a massive scale, which had never been done before. So we thought we want to contribute to this opportunity to create a benchmark and we will talk about that more later. But also we were interested within our own strategy. We want to focus on a specific subgroups. So for example, one of the funds that you mentioned, Massif, really wants to focus on how can we improve youth financial inclusion for youth. And then we saw, okay, this index is going to give us a lot of information. 60 decibels. Is it possible to break it down for different segments of clients? And that was possible. So there we thought, okay, we want to participate in this, and we want to make use of it for our customers, but also for FMO's own learning. And what we did is we offered this opportunity to customers in our portfolio who were interested, who had the time to participate, also because we also understood that sometimes the timing wasn't right. So we tried to make things match in terms of interest and availability. And we financed a customer in Latin America, and one of the subsidiaries of our funds in Cote d'Ivoire. That doesn't mean, by the way, that we don't have interest in other regions, but this is, let's say, how we managed to participate in the first round.
Thanks, Mitzi. So Fanny is definitely one of those where timing and interest coincided as a group of MFIs. And I know you went gung-ho as advanced and really took part in this initiative. So to you, Fanny, why were you interested in doing this? And to just compound that, what did you learn from taking part in this initiative as a group in general?
Yeah, thanks, Esther. And I will, what I will say completely resonates with what Devin and Mitzi just explained. So as a microfinance institution, we are working in 9 different countries, 9 different contexts with different type of clients, although they have the same type of needs and they all are farmers or entrepreneurs. We do know that there are different contexts that would impact the outcome of what we provide them as financial services. So the mission that we have of financial inclusion, we have broken that down into social goals. Those social goals are about making sure that we have a positive impact on our clients' revenues, their savings, their activities, and their quality of life, that we have enough adapted product and channels to serve them as they need, and that we do that in a manner that is sustainable and that is taking into account the low level of financial education, for example, that they have, our clients have. So when 60 Decibel presented us with this initiative, the Microfinance Index, we definitely wanted to jump in quite quickly because we were quite convinced that having an impact survey covering most of our subsidiaries, more than 1,000 clients with the same methodology, the same expertise and quality of research, and the same questionnaire everywhere would definitely provide us with some qualitative information that we do not have and that we can't really have and analyze with our internal data set, as you can imagine. And we are not the only financial institution, institution network facing that problem. The type of data that we have on our clients is we have a lot of data, but few of them are sufficiently digitalized and qualitative enough and reliable enough so that we can explore them and explore the impact we have through those internal data. So having an external provider reaching out to a sample of our clients, representative of our portfolio in all countries where we are operating with the same methodology was definitely something that we wanted to go for. We were very happy to see that we were not the only one thinking that way, because we are 7 of our institutions took part of this first edition, but 7 out of 72 means that we are not the only one being interested. And also we could count on some of our partners such as FMO to help us co-found the participation of our institutions. What I can say is that when we started to work with 60 Decibel, we also knew them quite well because we had done first research with 60 Decibel during the COVID crisis. We had tested and piloted some of the methodology 60 Decibel is using and the quality of the research that is deployed across different geographies and locations. And at that time, the methodology completely resonated and completed the data that we could get from our clients directly through our own teams. So we knew that it would be a good way of completing what we knew about our clients. If I look at the key learnings, we learned so many things. Basically, on the different dimensions, we could relate the different dimensions that Devin went over earlier during this conversation. We could relate that completely to the social goals that we have, and it could illustrate very well the way we were delivering our services, the outcome we currently have on our clients, and in the end, the impact on their revenues, their business life, their quality of life, but also, as I was saying, the quality of the work our teams are doing on the ground. So very reassuring, 81% of our clients saw a slight or significant improvement in their income, which is great. So the impact on income, quality of life, etc., is an important point. What was also very important was to see that the questions around the stress level, the way, the low level of customers, low number of customers who had to cut consumption, for example, to repay their loan, the loan burden was correlated with the level of portfolio at risk that we were seeing in our countries. What we found out as well is that obviously the impact and the outcome we have on our clients is different from one country to another. It's different from one region to another, for one segment to another. It's different for men and women. So it was not always easy to find the hypothesis behind the results, but that we are working on it. It was definitely very interesting to see country by country where we have the most impact, where we should put our energy and effort to improve that impact, and what is not going as well as we want, depending on the countries and the type of people we are serving. We had included a couple of questions in addition to the set of questions that 60 Decibel had in the questionnaire around satisfaction, which was very important for our staff to know. It was correlated. The results were quite good and correlated with some of the results we had on satisfaction before. And what we did actually, and I will finish with that, I just wanted to give you a quick snapshot, not going into the details of that, but that's for Advanced Côte d'Ivoire, which is one of the top performer of the 72 institutions participating, also supported by FMO co-funding this survey. Advanced Côte d'Ivoire, for each subsidiary, and this is just a snapshot, what we did at group level, and I will come back to that when we discuss challenges, is that we invested quite a lot of time to go into the raw data of what 60 Decibel could provide us, and to go into the details of the impact on different segments, as I was saying, on gender, on location as well, so that it could also bring some operational insights for the team in the field. And they could relate those results to the work they're doing every day. And I think that is an important thing, an investment to make when starting to participate to that type of initiative. I'm gonna stop there for now.
Sure. Thanks, Fanny. So what I had from you, and I took down some of the buzzwords that I had, was what you were looking for was reliability in a partner, reliability in data. You're also looking for complementarity. So what, this exercise went further than what you had done previously and provided that level of complementarity. I also heard relatability. So what you got from this was relatable from a strategic standpoint, from what you've had previously from your clients. And probably for me, most interestingly, was that the information was digitally explorable. I was looking for the bigger words, so I apologize for stumbling on them. So I think that is very interesting to get out of more than 1,000 clients interviewed in one initiative that was done.
Yeah, and just to finish on that, the best feedback we got from on when we presented the results internally. So we presented the results at different level, board level, executive committee level, and then each subsidiary level and their operation teams. But the best feedback was from our group CEO, saying that it was the first time in 15 years he's seen some such good data on impact evaluation. So that convinced us that we need to continue doing it and continue working with 60 Decibel.
I think that's both good news for 60 Decibels ourselves and the potential, this was only 72 MFI, so the potential other 1,000 others that were supposed to do this. Okay, so Mitzi, as an investor, as a learning, so what were you expecting going in? Did you get it? And what are some of the key takeaways you got as FMO in this exercise?
Yes, so I think I already mentioned this a little bit in the motivation why we decided to jump on the boat. But I think one clear expectation that we had from this whole initiative was really, well, first of all, we're going to have this snapshot of these different dimensions that resonate with the impact that we seek to achieve. And we also wanted to test it, right? Where to see we could use it also to fill some knowledge gaps we had in our own learning agenda. And I mean, maybe another expectation that we had was like, how can customers that we support, how are they going to use it? So we were hoping that the findings from this benchmark, the findings from the survey in general, could be also actionable enough for customers, for financial institutions to to take some action. So Fanny already presented like all the different types of breakdowns that they have done with the data, how that is leading, towards maybe some action, some gaps that you want to address in the future. And that is, I think, one of the key takeaways for us. So from the support that FMO provided, I think it led to a really good and let's say interesting conversation with your investees to talk about are the results something that you expected? Is there also a role that that you can see FMO taking going forward to support perhaps you need I don't know, an extra pair of hands, or we can think together, or maybe we can bring different organizations together to share some experiences. Another, if I can have just one more takeaway, we took away a lot of things, but it is basically this was the first round of the index, right? So what we also noticed was the different organizations, a lot of benefit could come in the future, I think, from different organizations coming together and thinking of how and sharing, like you did now, Fanny, for example, on how you're using the information, the social performance data. We are not just sort of collecting it to show the social performance of an FI, but actually to improve the products and services. So I think for me, a takeaway in the future could be how can we create more peer learning, and how and what role can investors play in this space is something that is giving us a lot of food for thought as well.
Thanks, Mitzi. Devin, you can imagine you're next in my questioning. So I'm very curious. So Fanny mentioned that from an advanced standpoint, they saw that 81% of the clients that were interviewed, or as a representation of the overall portfolio, saw an improvement in income. 22% of MSMEs increased the number of employees. I'm just picking up two numbers. So 81% is good. Of course, it could be 100 or 120 if we did more as we do more. 22% is also good as an increase in employees, which I think it's something to write home about as well. But there's definitely more that can continue to be done within the financial inclusion space and the MFI space. But I think you have a bigger view of the overall level of different performance that you saw. And I guess my question for you is, first, were there any surprising results that you saw? I think for me, the comment you made that there were no gender differences is not necessarily surprising, but is interesting. And secondly, what did you learn as an organization after this first round of the index? So go for it.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And I think you pointed out the differences between improvements in quality of life and then also employee count, which were two of the biggest differences that we saw in the index. So of the 18 indicators that I mentioned, the employee count was one of the lower percentages that we saw across the globe and different financial service providers of who was really able to increase the number of people they employed because of the Microfinance Institution. So other things that were surprising to us, group lending, we actually did not find very much on group lending as a it continues to prove to be a very important practice for reaching women and also reaching first-time borrowers. Other than that, you don't see very much differences in the indicators of how they report their experience with the Microfinance Institution. There are a few slight differences on things like being able to understand all their terms and conditions of their loan. The hypothesis there is that they're leaning on peers to understand their loan terms as well as the financial service provider. compared to an individual lending methodology where it's just a sole person trying to find their way through the loan terms and conditions. And another slight difference with group lending was also in their repayment burden. And so people who were more likely to be from an institution that was a group lending methodology said that they could easily make their repayments compared to individual borrowers. Which leads me to, yes, we learned so many things doing this index for the first time, and really a credit to all our partners who provided exceptional feedback to really take this index and this initiative for the next year and improve it. Something that we're looking at is how to improve client level MIS data. So Fanny talked a lot about the segmentation that they do and just the extra analysis that they do on the client level once they receive this data. We want to be able to do that for all institutions included in our index. So that means getting more upfront client level data from the financial service providers that participate in the index. Things like borrower gender, which we had last year, but things like, is it a household loan or a business loan, or what type of loan is it? How long have they been a client with the financial service provider? Because you could see some differences by tenure of how long a client has been there. And then also way more in depth, last year we were only able to do the lending methodology segmentation by the financial service provider, so at the enterprise level, and we want to be able to do that at the client level. So taking a look at what is their lending methodology, and do they have access to wraparound services, so non-financial services, things like training and education, do they make use of those services? Looking to see if there's any differences in what they report as their experience with the financial service provider versus those who don't have access to non-financial services. And then something else we're just really cautious or thinking about in this next iteration around methodologies and processes is we love benchmarks. Benchmarks are a great way to understand how you're performing compared to your peers, but there is a limitation to benchmarks, and really the benefit of those comes down to a geographic representation. So we want to be able to give MFIs in Cambodia a Cambodian benchmark and say every other MFI is we are comparing the Cambodian market to one another in the benchmark. This year we really only were able to do some region benchmarking, so by Latin America, Southeast Asia, Asia, and Sub-Saharan Africa. And this year we want to be able to provide some country level benchmarks to make that comparison just even closer to home for the microfinance institutions that participate. And then there's also something to be said about the microfinance institutions and funders that choose to participate. We really want to try to expand. I mentioned that, this index represents 15% of the global population of microfinance borrowers. That means we're missing 85% of microfinance clients. So expanding and having more microfinance institutions participate in this index and an initiative is top of mind for us.
Great, thanks, Devin. Fanny, and I challenge you to keep it a bit short and brief.
Yeah.
What challenges did you face, and what would you recommend for other MFIs looking to participate?
So as I was showing, and apologize if part of the last slide I showed was in French. It was just to illustrate, and it was a slide that represented to Advance Côte d'Ivoire. So hence it was in French, and it was just to illustrate the level of investment that we had to make sure that the data that we got and the results that we got from 60 Decibel, and that would be the first challenge or recommendation I would make for those of you who would like to participate. Do not underestimate the work, even though this is externalized research, and you can count on 60 Decibel's team to do a great part of the work. It needs there is a need to do the work as well. So for example, we spent quite some time on sampling, so making sure that the sample that we were providing and the contact details we were providing to 60 decibels team in each country were actually representative of the portfolio of each subsidiary, and it could be different from one to another in terms of branch, of segment, of gender, of cycle. Are those new clients, clients that have been with us for some time? Because all these can also have an impact on the results, of course. So that's quite an important recommendation. Then it took us some time to analyze the results and then to come up with recommendation for each of the country. So what we've done is, as Mitzi was mentioning, for each country, we've looked at the results and we said, okay, given the situation in Cameroon, for example, given the results in Cameroon, these are the top 3 actions that we would like you to put in place next year so that you can improve your results. So for example, we could see that we have good results on impact everywhere, but less good results in terms of transparency on the questions around, do you fully understand the terms and conditions of your loan contracts? We are rating slightly less, a lower level that what we want, the level we want to reach actually as a leading microfinance network. So this is a key action that we want everyone in every country, every CEO to keep in mind, and we are helping them with that. So we've defined some new action plan so that it could improve the level. We also started to look at internal data. So as Devin was saying, so at clients level, trying to correlate some of the results to are those clients with us for a long time? Have they been with us for a long time? So several cycle of loans, for example, do they save with us? Do they have a saving account? And can it explain the level of satisfaction or the level of impact they are declaring? Have they had an accident in terms of paying back for their installments in the past 2 years? Could we see an important impact on the results and their perception of the quality of service that Advance is providing? So this is the next set of challenges, and for us, the next steps, it's linking what 60 Decibel is providing us to internal data set, and how do we correlate and we make hypotheses on how to improve our impact so that it can inform action plans following that.
Great. I should say that as an investor, as a funder to this process, as a fund manager, I think it's always refreshing to hear when MFIs and groups of MFIs like yourself, take this data set that has all these nuances that you could potentially overlook and see how you can translate that into strategy and actions that are implementable. So, I mean, I think that's very interesting. And of course, doing that takes time and takes resources, which I think you have done a really good job of sort of painting a picture of what it takes to just take this the next step, which is very crucial from advancing the financial inclusion space.
And I just want to add a last point on benchmark, because you were talking about that, Devin. So it's definitely something that all our CEOs from all subsidiaries are asking for. So they want to see how they position their institution locally is positioned compared to their key competitors. It's normal. So I think the road that 60 Decibel has taken to improve, to deepen their presence in each location will also help, even though it means that you cannot cover all countries for the next round. But it's important that we can have a significant benchmark in each country further down the road.
Okay, thanks very much. Devin, I think you would be perfectly placed now to tell us. So you said that 85% of MFI clients are missing in this first round. So which means that as far as this index goes, it is representative, but there's a lot more that we can do to bring this more closer to home and, net in more respondents, net in more regions, and create this comparability and benchmarking that we are all very interested in. So for you, maybe you could just let us know a little bit on, what should MFIs wishing to participate in the future keep in mind. So just a little breakdown of what your process is, What's your timing? When should we expect this to go on for round 2? Yeah, that would be a great point for you to jump in now.
Perfect. Well, I just put a link in the chat, which is where you should go if you're interested in participating, or feel free to reach out to me directly. If you are a funder, a microfinance institution looking to participate, the most important things here are that you have active clients who are have completed at least one loan cycle with the institution, and that list can be, we can sometimes work with lists smaller than 2,000, but we try to aim around 2,000, and that's really important for what Fanny was talking about a representative sample of your clients, and making sure we can have some segmentation and representativeness in there as well. The general process, you really just need to sign up, and then hopefully Fanny and Mitzi have made it apparent that working with us is very easy, and we want to make it that way too. And so the goal here is you share us a list of contact details, and we make the phone calls and do all the analysis and reporting for you. And so if you are like Fanny and her team, you go the extra mile and do a lot of additional analysis and then share, and that is what we really hope that organizations are doing, to have those conversations about how you can improve and what you can do differently. But we want to make sure that your participation in the index as 60 decibels is what we're doing with the dimensions and comparing and providing you benchmarks, that is as easy and straightforward as possible. So really it's only signing up. We'll talk through some funding, co-funding options with different funders to make sure that we can to fund a project for you, and then you'll submit a client contact database, and we'll start making calls to your borrowers. Fairly straightforward and simple to participate.
Indeed. Thanks, Devin. And you can see in the chat that you've passed along the link to the 60 decibel site, where you can get a little bit more information as broken down. So at this point, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so at this point, sorry, go ahead, Devin.
I just saw a question in the chat. Well,
that's what I wanted to. That's actually what I wanted to pass along in a minute, right? So, and I think this can be either you or Fanny to respond to. So when a company falls short on reaching its impact objectives, it's interesting. What measures can it employ to mitigate the impact risk? I think that can be taken on by any one of us to respond to in a minute.
Yeah, I actually think Fanny or Mitzi may be more apt to answer this question.
Mitzi, I'll let you start.
Oh, thanks, Fanny. Well, I think from us it's a bit of a different perspective. So I think one way in which an investor like us can approach this question is really well, when you realize that a company is not reaching its impact objectives, start the conversation. So try to understand the context. Is it something that is within the control? For example, I don't know, with COVID, I mean, it was something that was happening, and that was a great risk to realizing impact, right? So try to understand the context, and then again, at least within FMO, we have capacity development funds that we can use to support customers to see whether we can help or not get an investee on track to achieve the impact that they wanted to achieve in the first place. So I think first starting off, what is the context, what is within the control of the company, and what as investors, how can we support the investees themselves? Fanny, over to you.
Yeah, well, let's say that in the seven within the seven of our institution that took part to the first round of the index, the results were different. So advanced Cote d'Ivoire and advanced Nigeria were actually ranking quite high with great results, although they have different really physiognomy of portfolio of clients. And some other countries were falling short in terms of impact. So I mentioned Advanced Cameroon, for example, who had quite a low low result in terms of what clients were saying about understanding the terms and conditions. And for us and for the CEO of Advanced Cameroon, it was like not possible to continue like that. So there is an action plan. We are going to do an audit on the client protection principles next year. We are doing some things so that we can improve that result. So I would say it's on a case-by-case decision, and it needs to it has to be a decision that is taken by the local executive team, so that it can then be cascaded as any decision to the rest of the team, and we make sure that they understand why we're doing it and what value it will bring for the clients and for them as a team. So I hope this is an example that answer the questions partly.
Yeah, thanks very much, Fanny. I think you have answered the question completely. I will take some liberties here and make the closing remarks on behalf of the entire group. I think we have had quite an engaging conversation, then we can keep going on this, as evidenced in some of the questions on the chat that we have tried to respond to. Devin, Fanny, Mitzi, and I are available online. If you would like to, explore this further with us, if you have additional questions on the topic, our experiences and the findings, I think I can say on behalf of everyone that we are available to do so and to provide input as much as is needed. As you can tell from this, we are all looking forward to round 2 of this index. We are all looking forward to, more insights, more findings, and as shown by Fanny, an opportunity to make strategic decisions that advance financial inclusion in the markets that we are in. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much to my panelists. Thank you very much to the Center, the Financial Inclusion team for working with us on this. We look forward to further engagements and having a more elaborate discussion than this going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.